In this L2 data mapping training, we are going to go through using the constituent side of the platform. This is specifically for our offices in the US House, US Senate, and those state legislatures and governors' offices, AGs, secretaries of state across the country, using our data to contact and work with constituents within their states and districts. So in this case, what we're going to do, we're going to start with the login page. This is the first URL you're going to get to be able to access the platform. And you will either get a username from an administrator from within your office, or you will get it from an L2 staff member. So in this case, once you get your username, you'll have to set your password. You'll simply go to reset password and follow the prompts. Your username is typically going to be your email, but it's not necessarily the case. Even if it's not, you'll use your email to recover your password or create a password. And from there, you'll follow the prompts and then enter your password and log in. I'm going to start here. I'm going to enter our username, log in. From here, you'll go to the applications page. Now, on the applications page, you will see a recent applications section up top and then your overall applications below. This is a demo account, so you're seeing everything that I have as part of this account. In many cases, for congressional offices or state ledge offices or even statewide offices, you'll notice that you will never come to this page. You'll simply go directly into the application. That's going to be the case if you only have a single application, which is going to be the case most of the time. But just in case, this is what this page looks like. And in here, we're going to go to Pennsylvania constituents, and we're going to focus on a single congressional district in this case. But again, all of the things I'm going to be showing you today can apply statewide or locally. I'm going to quickly close the side panel here. So what we've got within the tool, we'll quickly take a walk around the interface. On the left-hand side, you'll see this little tag here. This is very important because this is going to allow you to communicate with L2 staff in the event of an issue or a suggestion you might have for us. So this is the Give Feedback tab. You click on it, and what you'll see here is you have the ability to request help. This will go to our support team. Suggest a feature. This goes to our product and engineering team. And report a bug. This goes directly to our engineering team. And in all three cases, you will get an immediate email back saying that we've received the question and the request. And then within that same day, typically, you will receive a response from a member of our team saying, oh, well, this is the issue. This is how you solve for this. And either refer you to some of our existing training materials or walk you through whatever your question might be. That's specifically for request help. For report a bug, this is if you see one of those red bars come across the screen or an issue that pops up where you're like, this doesn't seem right. It seems like there's a more critical issue here. That's really what you'll want to send to our engineering team. All right. So from here, also on the map, what you can also see is you see currently selected people. This is all the constituents that we have available in Congressional District 6. Now remember, this is based on the voter file. So you're not going to have all 700,000 individuals, as we don't have people under the age of 18, nor do we have people who are not registered to vote within the platform. So this is the basis. So you're going to see in this case around 482,000. Most congressional districts, for example, are between 400 and 600,000 individuals. If you want to see addresses, which we're going to in this case, I'm going to click on Click to Show. This is then going to show us the total number of addresses. This will stay up for the remainder of the session once you click that. We keep it closed in the case that individuals or users don't care about that total, and it'll improve performance by keeping it hidden. If you do care about it and you want to see it throughout, simply click on Click to Show and work with it. Also on the mapping screen, you can see in the upper left-hand corner, we have a location search. This allows you to search by a very specific location that may not necessarily be a voter household or location, where you could actually just go in and type in a very specific address, a college or university, a park, something like that, where you could actually have it so it zooms down specifically to that. Also, here are the map controls. This allows you to tilt the map. This allows you to zoom in or zoom out. And then, of course, you can also change the style as well. So I'm going to change it to imagery. So now you can see that we have kind of a map where you can get a little bit more detail. I'm going to zoom down to a very specific neighborhood and area, and you can see all the rooftops here. The dot coloring, for those of you wondering about it, the dot coloring is currently colored by ethnic coding or ethnic grouping. So you could see blue is for, and this is going to be the standard look every time you open up data mapping for constituents. And you could see blue is for white or European, green is for Hispanic, red is for East or South Asian, gray and purple are going to be for other and unknown, or a combination of individuals within a household. So if you have, say, somebody who is unknown and Asian, they might be this kind of grayish, reddish color where it's a little bit lighter, and so on in terms of mixed households. So you can see all of that here. You can even click on an individual household. I'm not going to do that here just for privacy concerns because we are going to post this publicly, but you can click on an individual household, see all of their information laid on the right-hand side, and then be able to look up that individual. You can even do that in the search bar here on the right, which I'm going to get to in a second. But that's using some of the visualization and the mapping right off the bat. All right, let's zoom back out. I'm going to switch back to streets. And in fact, what you can do if you really just want to simply reset, you can click Reset, Reset Visuals. It's then going to center us around the state, not the district, but you get the idea where it can just kind of zoom out and reset the map to what it previously had been. All right, we're now back set for Congressional District 6 in Pennsylvania. And again, you can kind of see the sort of broad areas of the map. You have these red pockets of East and South Asian, green pockets of Hispanic, black pockets of African American, and a lot of blue or white or European throughout the rest of the district. So from here, what we're going to do is move over to the right-hand side, the right-hand panel. Now, this is where you're going to see all of your selections. We're going to start actually at the bottom here with filter and all the different filters that are available, but you also have source, and this is how you're going to be working with the data within the tool, and then visualize. This is how you're going to actually be able to see some of the changes on the map, whether that's boundary lines, whether you're able to select based on areas versus individual households or dots. We'll go through some of the masking tool, etc. So there's lots of different ways to be able to use the tool. But we're going to start with some of the most basic features, which includes making selections, saving those selections as a universe, and then having those exportable within the system, whether that's to a third-party provider such as IQ, Fireside, IndieGov, or whether that's going to be used completely outside of those tools, and so you could download the data from within the tool itself. So here's what we're going to do. First thing first, we'll make a selection. So we go down under Filter, scroll down, and within this district we have Chester and Berks County. We're going to take Chester County. We'll go down to individual demographics, and we're going to go through some of these branches a little bit in a little bit more detail here in a second. But we're going to take women. We'll go to age range. We're going to go to 65 plus. And under lifestyle, we'll go to home and property, homeowner and renter, and we'll go to likely homeowner. So we just used a combination of some voter file information with some demographic information and then some consumer information as well. Now that we've got that all selected, we're down to 34,119 individuals, or around 33,600 households. From there, I'm going to go up to universes. And if you open up universes, you can see we have some created here previously. I'm going to go to universes, click on the plus sign, and I'm going to go to CD6, we'll call it. Actually, I won't even call it that because we know that it's CD6, but we'll call it Chester, female, 65 plus, homeowner. Once you've put a name in, you can put a full description if you want something more, for campaign for February 2024 or whatever you want to title it. You can then put it into folders if you want. If you want to subdivide into different issue areas or other things like that, you can do that. And then method allows you to create a random sample, which I'll show you a little bit later on. You can also combine universes, subtract universes, expand to everyone in the household, or reduce to one per household. So there's lots of features you can use in terms of working with the data. But in this case, we're just going to use currently selected filters, and create. Now, like I said, this is going to be one of the most commonly used and important functions, which is making selects, saving it as a universe, and then either exporting it or making sure it gets to your third-party tool. Now, you'll have to work with, IndieGov, Fireside, or IQ, depending on who your provider is. But in this case, you'll see in the universe, once it's selected, in many cases with our partners, you have the ability to just simply see this universe. It'll immediately be transferred and it's done without any additional action on your part into the platform of your choice, just by creating the universe. Now, there are instances where you do need to download the data. In some cases, if you want to work with it outside the system. And the way you're going to do that is assuming you've licensed the entire file for whether it's a district or a state, you'll go in, you'll see universe details. And again, I'll just go back here, universes, click on the universe name, go to download this universe, click on new. And in this case, you can set your very specific parameters here. So let's say this was for a texting campaign. Now, I know we didn't select cell phones, but let's say it was for texting, and you're using a texting provider that may be outside of a platform that you're currently working with, and you simply want to send it to that provider. And all they need are name, zip, and cell phone number. So here's how you do that. You'd go to Data Export in CSV format, click on Next, go to Custom Field Sets. We're going to click on New, and we're going to call this Texting Export 1. And you only have to do this once. So once you've created this, it's done, and it will be saved there. So I've gone under here to label Texting Export 1, identification first and last name. We'll include, scroll down to telephones. We want to include cell phone. Make sure you have the actual cell phone number. And then you'll want to go back up, and they also wanted, we said, zip code. Okay, so now we've included the zip under residence addresses. That's the one you're going to want to use. Click on Save, Use. From there, we recommend you zip the file and then generate. This will now generate a file within a few seconds, typically, of all the individuals within this area that we had selected, around 34,000. You can X out of this if you want to wait for it to be done, or you can simply wait for the export to generate. Once it's done, and anytime after it's done, you can simply go back to the universe and download it, or you can click the download button when it appears here. The file you can see here has now downloaded, and you can start working with the data once you open it. Again, for privacy considerations, I'm not going to open a specific file of individuals, but you get the idea that it's incredibly fast and easy to be able to extract the data once you've licensed it for your district or state. All right, we're back into the tool, and now we're going to go through some of the different filters that exist within L2. I'm not going to do a too deep of a dive into all of the different filter selects, but and that's definitely something that if you have the UI already, go dive into it. If you don't, request a demo, and that'll give you a couple of weeks to be able to go into all of these different branches and see all the data L2 has available. So in this case, what I'm going to do is click Reset, and you have the option to reset trees by closing all the different branches to kind of clean up the right-hand side here. Reset visuals by recentering you in the state and recentering the map. And then the biggest one, of course, resetting filters. So it's going to recall all those selections, and now we're looking statewide at Pennsylvania. We're going to go back to the district we're working in. Now, if you do have a specific district that you have, let's say it is Congressional District 6, you won't have the option to see the whole state of Pennsylvania. You'll only be able to see and work within your district to remain compliant with whether it's U.S. House rules or state legislature rules or Senate rules, etc. All right. We're back to all constituents within District 6 in Pennsylvania. If you look on the right-hand side here, and I'm going to open up this right-hand panel, I'm going to kind of zoom in a little bit just so you get a little bit of an idea. I just used my scroll wheel mouse and held down Control just to zoom in, just to give you a better look at this. That's more of a browser feature than it is an L2 feature, but it's one I certainly use a lot. Under Filter, you can see we've got Search. The search allows you to look up an individual within this district, so you'd be able to go in and actually search by a specific name. So let's say we were looking for Paul. Use my own name here, and we'll do a quick search. All right. You know what it was? I think I had a space after my name. That's something you do have to watch out for. So let's do that again. There we go. I put the space in there. I saw myself do it, and I knew it was going to be a problem. So there you go. There's all the Pauls within the area. Now let's say the last name begins with W. Click on W, but you don't know what the remainder of the name is. You simply add an asterisk there, check the box, and there are all the Paul W's within this district in Pennsylvania. So I don't live in this district personally, but it is one that I did look up. So you can see there's Paul W, all the Paul W's, and it'll give you all the different names. Again, I'm not going to click on it for privacy concerns, but there you go. If you want to clear these, you simply click on the X's here or go to the reset up top. I'm just going to use the X's. And in addition to searching by name and residence or mailing address, you can even search by identifiers, including state voter IDs or even an email address within the district as well. Under that is going to be your area selections, and that includes the latest available congressional, state house, state senate districts. You've got county level information, and nested under there, so we'll open up Chester County, are your precincts, as well as census tract information as well. So you have your census blocks that you can actually tap into and be able to look at. Again, this will only be available for your district. You have zip codes, municipalities. Nested under municipalities are going to be your city council districts. Miscellaneous districts, these are going to be the old districts if you want to do a comparison, which I know a lot of people do. So if you say wanted to see Congressional District 6 previously, you can see that the overlap is around 98%. So what a lot of offices have done recently is they have wanted to, this is specifically with U.S. House or even state legislatures, where they are looking to find those new individuals to their district, not necessarily movers, but these are people who are now part of their district. So you could say, okay, well, previously there were this small 1 point some odd percent in CD9, so around 8,000 individuals just outside Reading in this case. Now you can reach out to these individuals, welcome them to your district, let them know you're their representative. It's a great way to be able to do an immediate contact. And that's why we leave this information in here. We also include some other districts, including Native American districts, which are reservations across the country as well, and sub-districts of that as well. You can see that we have school districts, sub-districts, all of that's in here. The new to district and new to state classifications are relatively new to L2, but it gives you the ability to look by state house, senate, congressional district, and county. And in this case, we'll open up the congressional district box, and you can see that within the last 6 months, 6 months to a year, and 1 to 2 years, you can see people who moved from somewhere else in Pennsylvania to Congressional District 6. So this allows you to actually find those new movers to your district from outside the district. Now, this is not those people who were moved because of redistricting. These were people who filed a national change of address move from somewhere else or another district within Pennsylvania to Congressional District 6. So you can find those very recent movers and do an outreach to those individuals. We also have new to state individuals, and these are people who have moved from outside of the state of Pennsylvania to this district. Now, it's important to recognize this number might seem low. That's because the individuals who are moving from out of state to the district, although that number seems to match a lot of demographic trends in this part of the world, but these are individuals who have to have been registered in another state. They then filed to move to Pennsylvania with the National Change of Address System with the Postal Service, and then they registered in Pennsylvania to vote at that new address, and we were able to match that all together and say, okay, this is an individual who moved, and we know their state, the state from which they moved, the date in which they moved, and even their voting performance, which is a score that L2 uses, and I can show you the specifics of that below when we get into it for the current electorate. But what you're looking at is essentially the historical information from their previous state. So you can find those new movers to your district. And the nice part about this is that you can actually sort by specific date. So that'll give you a really specific, I can do the last 3 months or from whenever we last had a national change of address update, which we do typically every 30 to 60 days. You could take both of those new movers, new to district within the last 6 months, and these individuals new to state, and actually combine them into a universe of all of your new movers. In fact, I'll take you through that example right now because that's something that we get quite a bit of questions on. So we'll say new to district, and let's say they moved within the last 6 months. I'm going to go up here to universes, and we'll call this CD6 6-month movers in state. Now I'm creating that universe. I'm going to X out of it while that creates. From there, I'm going to deselect 6-month movers. I'm going to go to new to state. Going to select those individuals. And I'm going to say the date from which they moved. And I'm going to say in the last 6 months. So we'll just take 2023, for example. Oops. This is probably faster if I do it this way. Go to January 1st, 2023 through June 1st, 2023, deselect unknowns, and you can see it's a rather small number of individuals, around 378. So we're going to create this universe as well. So we'll call this 2023 new movers. Create. Looks like most of the people who moved into this district were from within the state of Pennsylvania. So from there, what you now have is two universes. We'll go to My Universes here, and you can see you've got your 2023 new movers and then your CD6 6-month in-state movers. And you can see, you'll probably want to make your naming conventions a little bit more standardized than I just did there, but this is just a quick example of how to do this. Now, if let's say you wanted to combine these two universes, here's how you would do it. You'd go up to universes. You've now created your two movers universes, and we'll call this all new movers in CD6. And instead of use currently selected filters, we're going to go to union, combine two or more universes. And then what we'll do is we'll select our 6-month movers and our 2023 movers. And you can select any other districts you want, or any other universes you want, and then create. This is now going to create a third universe, which was created based on the combination of those two. And you can see that all movers combined takes us up to 8,212 individuals. And from there, you can start working with that universe. All right, I'm going to deselect new to state. I'm going to change the dates back, and I'm also going to reselect unknowns, close new to state, close new to district. I'm even going to close the federal state districts. The very last selection under area selections is going to be urban, suburban, rural classifications. This is based on zip code, and so you could see it all broken out. This district actually has a pretty good representation of all three within it. It's one of the reasons I demo this district. Under there, you've got individual demographics, which includes registration status. This is set by the state, whether somebody's an active versus an inactive voter. Inactive is typically someone who hasn't voted in either 2 to 4 years, but has also but also still has the same address. So change of address system says they still live there, they just haven't been an active voter, so the state classifies them as such, and it's sort of the first step before you're removed from the rolls altogether. You've got gender, marital status, veteran. This is very important to so many of our users out there to be able to reach veterans, and this list is updated each time we update our commercial database, which is on a quarterly cadence. It's independent of the actual voter file, which makes up the underlying constituent file, but you're getting a really fresh look at veterans within your district from this list. You have registration date, and this is based on L2's registration date, which is when you first registered to vote within that state. So in this case, if you moved from, say, even outside of CD6, but if you moved from, let's say, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and then you moved to this part of the district in Phoenixville, and then you moved to Norristown, and then you moved back into the district to Coatesville, even though you moved all those different times, you initially registered in Pittsburgh, that is going to be the date that L2 utilizes. So that's when the person first registered in the state, typically considered to be the initial reg date. You've got age in here, ethnicity, which is how this is colored right now. You can see by individual ethnic categories. I'll open up broad ethnic categories so you get an idea of the color scale here that's being used. Red for East and South Asian, blue for European, green for Hispanic, black for likely African Americans, and gray for other. Now, you can change the dot coloring of the map anytime you want, and that includes by things like age, for example. We'll open up the age range, and any place where you can see a color scale, you actually are able to see, you're able to see this. So if you click on the three dots, you can now see the different age ranges here, where you see groups of youth or younger people. You see kind of darker colors. Typically, that's going to be around a college or a university. So I see one here around Westchester, and this is how you can use the visualization to kind of help you, get a good idea of where people are. Again, you've got Westchester University here, and you have a lot of students who are, right around there. You see the red clustering here, typically around a senior living facility, or in this case, it looks like a country club. Yeah, with the senior facility here, almost everyone in the population's over 65. And then you see kind of a mixed bag throughout the rest of the area. But it gives you a way to sort of very quickly see clustering throughout the map. And again, if you want to reset the visual, you can simply go back to, say, broad ethnic groupings and click on the dots, which I'm going to do now, or you go to reset and reset visualization. All right. Likely religion is here as well. Underneath that, you've got your voting history. This includes the specific vote history. So if, let's say, you wanted to see people who voted in the 2022 general election, you simply click on it. You've selected select only voters that have voted in one or more of the following elections, 22. Now, let's say if you wanted to see people who voted in the last 2 out of 4 even year general elections, well, you would do that by clicking General 22, 20, 18, and 16. And instead of having one or more, and you can see it's calculating right now, 436,000, almost the whole district voted in at least one of those. Let's say 2 or more. 367,000. Let's say 4 or more. These are your most highly engaged people and people who've lived in the district for a long time. You have people who voted in these elections, around 219,000 voted in every single one of these general elections. So that's how you can use the very specific election data, and that's for primaries, specials, local municipals. But if you're just simply looking to find propensity or voting performance, there's 2 scales that L2 provides. One is a voting frequency scale from unknown or 0 all the way to 8, or voting performance, which allows you to see performance in specific elections, generals and primaries combined, and then minor elections. The scale from 0 to 8 is a very simplistic model where it takes your last 4 even year generals and last 4 even year primaries within that state and says how many times has an individual voted in those elections. So if you voted in 2 primaries and 2 generals, you would be a 4. If you voted in 3 generals and 2 primaries, that you would be a 5. So it gives you a good scale here. The voting performance scale is a lot more complex and actually utilizes your entire vote history as an individual. So if you had the opportunity to vote in, say, 18 elections and you voted in, 3/4 of them, you would be a 75% voter. So you can see the different scales here. And again, we have it for minor elections, primaries, generals, and primaries combined. So again, you can kind of see the different level of performance. Not eligible are people who just weren't registered prior to the last general. So this is another really quick way to see, okay, these are people who are disengaged at 0. The not eligibles are people who just, they weren't registered. So maybe you want to go after those people. Household demographics, this allows you to, the most important categorization here is going to be primary language. So you could actually see the level of English proficiency, if at all, and of course, which language is spoken in the household. This is based on primary ballot selection, or excuse me, ballot selection language. So if they, an individual says, I want a Spanish language ballot, they're going to be categorized as Spanish, etc. We also have data from consumer information to supplement that to give you an even better look. Below that is your telephone data. The two most important fields within telephone data are going to be whether a cell phone exists and whether a landline phone number exists. So you've got both in here. You can see we have around 54% coverage, or almost 55% for cells, and around 42% coverage for landlines. You also have the ability, and if you're working with a phone vendor, whether that's Broadnet or Teletown Hall or one of those other vendors that's out there, you have the ability to actually do a quick sort based on the quality of the number. We have a confidence code for cells, it's 1 to 2. For landlines, it's 1 to 5. 1 is the best, 2 in cell phones is the lowest, 5 is the lowest for landlines. But let's say you're doing a call where you want to do a teletown hall, but you want to exclude those numbers where you're not entirely sure of the confidence in that number. You can say, instead of 1 to 5, you can say, I just want to use 1s and 2s. Simply select it there, deselect unknowns, and now you're going to limit to just those highest quality available landline numbers that L2 has available. You can see it drops the number somewhat significantly. And our confidence code is not based on our confidence of connectivity. L2 is the only national data provider that utilizes, in the constituent space, that utilizes a disconnect file. So this disconnect file allows us to remove those bad numbers that are either failed from text messages or failed from calls, hand-dialed or robo-dialed calls. We get all that data back and we remove those bad numbers. So it's really a binary thing whether a phone number is connected or not. What we're looking at here in terms of the overall confidence is our confidence that the name of the voter or constituent matches the commercially available telephone number. So that's what we're looking at. And when we have more information with a commercial file, like let's say middle initial or age or other things like that to help us match back to our voter file and our constituent file to ensure that that linkage is there, you get a higher or better number. All right. Below telephones, you've got lifestyle data. And again, I'm not going to go too far into detail on this, but this includes some of your wealth data, including net worth and income, occupation information, which includes business owners and likely union members. You have education level, which includes both census-based education data based on the years of education, likely years of education. And then you have actual education data based on highest attainment, whether that's bachelor degree, some college, high school, less than high school, etc., all laid out here. Home and property is going to give you your homeowners in here. You also have property type, dwelling type, population density, all within here as well. Home life and children, where we also have presence of children code within here. So if you're looking for parents, and this is for kids under the age of 18, or 18 and under, I should say, within the household. These aren't adult children in the household. You also have pet ownership under here as well as one of those fields that I never know if somebody's going to use it, but it's there just in case. Social position, lifestyle, and neighborhood. This includes our socioeconomic ladder, which gives a scale from 1 to 10 as to somebody's sort of socioeconomic power. So whether they have a high net worth, home ownership, the value of the home, their income, their education level, all combined into a single category, which will rate people from 1 to 10. And this is yet another place where you have a color scale and you can kind of see, okay, here's your higher income, higher education, higher home values, and here is your sort of lower area, which really matches to the demographics of this area. I'll keep that up for right now. And again, it's kind of a cool way to be able to see visually very quickly where you have some of these areas. You have hobbies and interest data. This includes from known credit card purchases. We match our file back to the constituent file back to our consumer database, which L2 maintains. The L2 consumer database then informs the constituent database with these known purchases. So we can't tell you that somebody went to Amazon and bought camping supplies, or they went to REI and bought camping supplies, but we can say that there is an interest in camping and hiking because in the last year, an individual spent some amount of money with a camping supply store on camping goods, and it was categorized as such. So we have that in here. We also have gun ownership, and this comes from hunting and fishing licenses as well as concealed weapons permits. So you've got all of that baked in here as well. Below that, you have contribution information. We have stripped out the contribution info that is not allowed by rules of state legislatures, House, other government officials. If you do work in a government and you want to use these data and you say, well, actually, our government allows for any type of data use, just let your L2 rep know and we can add those categories back in. But in this case, what you have is donates to environmental causes, animal welfare. This is all from known purchase behavior in the last year. And it allows you to kind of go beyond some of the core demographics and say, okay, this might show intent. Maybe they're not a veteran, but they support veterans' causes. So maybe this is somebody we want to reach out to as well. Same thing with the environment or children's health care. Media targeting, I'm going to skip over. It's primarily for the use of the DMA zones, which is in here as well. And then you've got census data, which uses the American Community Survey information. This is similar to some of the commercial data. I highly recommend sticking with the commercial data because that's going to give you household-based information versus census block-based information. And at the very bottom, you've got haystack data and private data. I'll go to private data first because this is going to be where your emails are. So if you did purchase emails as part of your subscription, you will see that you've got the last update date of those emails, and then you can see that we also have the total number of emails coverage for the district, which is typically going to be, or district or state or the whole country, it's going to be anywhere from 30 to 40%. In some cases, we're pushing 60% in places like California, Indiana, other places where we get data both from the voter file as well as from from commercial sources that we utilize. Right above that, right above emails, is Haystack DNA. This is also something you can add to your account that allows you to drill down not just based on demographics, voter information, things like that, or even consumer information. These are likely models where we made tens of thousands, or Haystack made tens of thousands of contacts with individuals across the country, in which they said they asked questions about ideology, how they feel about the economy, education, environment, healthcare, all of these different issues and behaviors. And when they took that response data, they layered it back on top of the file, and then they created a series of scores from 0 to 100, and then took the top scores from those and bottom scores and assigned them flags. And I'll give you an example. So let's go to environment, climate change. And in this case, you have believer, non-believer, and unknown. Now, unknown isn't necessarily unknown. These are people who are just persuadable. They're in the middle. Believer and non-believer are those people who will most be engaged if you send them a piece, a mail piece, a text, an email, or some other kind of outreach based on their, the environment or climate change or fossil fuels or whatever the case might be. And then, of course, non-believers are people who are going to be far less receptive to that kind of, pro-environmental message. But on the other side, if you're talking about jobs or the economy and, how the environmentalists are fighting you on it, and these are just examples, by the way, there's probably a lot more brain power out there thinking of this messaging, but non-believer might be your best available target. And you simply select these people. Again, it's a model, but it's based on the knowledge of these individuals and tens of thousands of responses. And again, you can go through some of these different categorizations, but you have who's an activist, ballot drop off being people who vote top of the ticket but don't vote bottom. Um, type of charitable giving, whether somebody actually gives, responsiveness to texting versus calls, people who actually read their mail, whether somebody's religious or not, whether they work from home or not. So you've got a whole lot of information here, specific COVID models based on vaccines and concerns about it, minimum wage, Build Back Better, and we're always updating these based on the current political environment, both to gauge somebody's interest in those topics, to make sure that some of our standard type of fields, such as things like abortion, you can see under role of government, civil liberties, marijuana, gun control. These are issues that are not going anywhere. But then, of course, we have things like political activism and strife, where you have some of the latest and high priority or high profile type things that may not always be around, but they're certainly of interest right now. So that's where you're going to see some of those. And then, of course, candidate specific information like things on President Trump, and specific candidates out there, as well as President Biden. So you've got all of that baked into here in the models. And like I said, you can see this both for flags and scores. So again, these are the flags, the simple oppose and support flags, and the scores allow you to sort this by a specific number. Some offices that we work with prefer to not even have the numerical values because it just makes it too complicated. You can see that there's just a lot going on here. But some do like it because it gives you the ability to scale the platform or scale the data set. So you've got support range. Here's your supporters of charter schools within this congressional district, 50 to 100. Let's say we want really the tip of the spear people who are really pro charter school. I did 90 plus. You'll see it drops it to 86,000. Let's get even further down. Let's say we want to do a mailing, but we want it to be below 50,000 individuals. All right, that'll do it. 36,000, that's 95 plus. And again, you can kind of play with the numbers till you get the exact number you're looking for, which is something that some offices like to have for budgeting purposes. And that is the Haystack DNA data. All right, now let's go through some of the other features of the platform here. I'm going to reset all, and then I'm going to reselect our district so we can start from scratch. Now, first thing we're going to do is go through another selection process just to show you again how that works. But in this case, I'm going to go up to source, and instead of going to universes, I'm going to go to custom shapes. We're going to use the shapes tool. This is one of the things that is great about working with L2, and specifically within the mapping tool itself, is that you can actually go down and zoom into a specific area. So let's go back, and actually I'm going to change the visualization a little bit again. I'm going to go back to age. Let's go to age range, change the dot coloring. And now you can see we've changed the dot coloring back to age, and I'm going to zoom down back to that sort of very red area where we have sort of a senior area in Hershey Mill. And what I'll do is I'm going to select around that area. I'm going to you can use a polygon, a lasso, or a radius tool. I'm going to use the polygon tool to make it nice, crisp, straight lines. So what I'll do is click on my initial point, drag the line here, and you can click this as many times as you like to make it as precise as you like around a given area. And actually, we'll go up over here. Looks like I incorporated some of the surrounding community, but you get the idea where you can be as precise as you'd want. And then I'll reconnect it at the end here, and we'll just call this polygon 1. Okay. I've now created the shape, and you have the ability to edit this. So let's say we want to edit out this area. You simply double click on it. At least you should be able to double click. And let's see if I do this. Because I know, oh, it looks like it did populate. It's kind of hard to see with some of the different dot coloring, but you do have the ability to shrink or change. Yeah, so it does have some of the transform ability baked in here with this. So you do have the ability to kind of work with this. And specifically within the shapes that you go ahead and create, you can even move it around as well. Also within shapes, once you've created it, you can see the count is still 482,000. That's not what we want. We really want this specific area. So I'm going to click on this little filter tool. The filter is now reselected. And we now have 3,086 individuals. And I can even filter by shapes visually. So now within this area, it's going to select just this very small area. And you can see the dots get a lot bigger, because we're now working within this specific area. But you can also make additional selections where you could go in and say, okay, well, I've selected this area, but I really don't want all these people who are under 65. So you simply can click 65 and over. And just like that, it cleans up the shape. And now you just have those individuals who are specific within a shape area who meet your criteria. And just like any other selection, you go up to universes and we'll call this polygon, or I'm going to call it specifically Hershey Mill Golf Course Create. And so now I've selected it and now I can work with these data. Let's say, and I'm going to just save it just like that. Let's say we wanted just emails for these individuals. Here's how you do it. You'd scroll down, go to private data, L2 email addresses, matched. And of the, 2,500, we have around 787 emails. So I'm going to click on yes next to emails. And we'll call this Hershey Mill emails. So now I've created a file with emails. Now, one of the things you can do with emails is obviously you can work with it within some of the partner platforms that L2 works with, or you can export and work with those emails in a platform outside of this. So what you can do is go to My Universes, and we'll go to Hershey Mill Emails. So I'll click on it here. And again, you click New, under Downloads, New, Data Export in CSV format, Next, Custom Field Sets, and we're going to call this Email Export 1. Again, you only have to create this once and then it's saved. Go to Identification. We're going to include first name, last name. I'm going to include residence address, and I'm actually going to include residence city. So you have their actual municipality within here and zip code. And then I'm going to scroll down to private data, L2 email addresses. And you're not going to want to select matched. That's simply going to give you a yes or no whether it's matched to an email. What you want is email address. This is actually going to give you the email. Save. And now you have this in the export, use, generate. And now it's going to generate a file with all those individuals in Hershey Mill that have an email, and then you can download that data just like any other file. And that's using the Shapes tool, the Universes tool, and then the ability to create a custom export specifically around emails. Okay, so next thing is that we're going to go into is some of the reporting functionality that we have within the tool as well. So one of the things that a lot of individuals like to do prior to releasing or doing any kind of outreach is actually taking a look at a specific selection or a universe. And I'm going to do it for the whole district in this case. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back, reset all, and I'm going to go back and I'm going to select Congressional District 6. And let's say you wanted to do some analysis of the district where you wanted to take a look at some specific demographics. Here's how you can do that in a report function where you can give this to whether it's a chief of staff, a communications director, the actual member or lawmaker or governor. You can show them the demographics either of a specific area, whether that's a zip code or whether it's an entire district. I'll do the whole district in this case. So we'll go to Reports, and this is where you have PDF generated reports. Click on the plus sign, and we'll call this CD6. You can include a table of contents and a cover page, as well as totals. The table of contents includes just a listing of everything that's in the report. Cover page is the only thing that has an L2 logo on it. So if you want to just white label this and take credit for it, simply deselect that. I'm going to keep it in for now to show you what it looks like. And then totals gives you the total number of individuals and households within the selection you've made. You then have the ability to select the fields. I'm going to do default for right now, but just like with the custom exports, you have the ability to incorporate whatever data you want into this report that we're generating. In this case, I'm just going to use our standard default report, click generate, and now it's going to create the report. And you'll be able to see, actually, as this is happening, you can either X out of this or you can watch it happen, but you can see you've got, district, ethnic groupings, all the different features that are in there. Click download. Well, it went really fast, so you didn't see much of that. And then you can see it downloaded here. And it's 17 pages, CD6, that's what I titled it. You've got our little logo there on the cover page, the table of contents, and then you can see here's the district. Total number of individuals, you've got the household count, you have the total voter count, presence of children code, so who's likely to have a child, gender split, individual ethnic coding, broad ethnic coding, likely religion, marital status. So it gives you kind of a quick overview of the district. Occupation information gives you the top 100. You have district information, different breakdowns. And again, you can customize this to make it whatever you want, but it gives you a lot of really quick and good information right off the bat about the district, or again, zip code, or even a specific selection that you make from within the tool. So that's using the PDF reports tool. There's also a Sheets report tool. Now, if you click on it, you'll see it says you have to use the filters. Well, here's how you do that. So let's say you wanted to see a breakdown of ethnicity by zip code in your district or state. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I need to select rows and columns. So I'm going to use my area selection, which is commonly going to be the rows, and you can see there's a lot of zeros. It's because it's looking statewide in Pennsylvania. We do a quick sort, and you can see there's all your big zip codes within this area. So you have to set rows, and to do that, you go to this sort of rounded box, click on it. I've now set rows. If I clicked on it again, it sets columns. So imagine it being a set of columns in a spreadsheet, and in this case, we're going to start with the rows being zip code. So that's what our first column will be populated with, will be all of the different zip codes. And then we want to see by zip code, we want to see ethnicity. So we're going to go to individual demographics, ethnicity, broad ethnic groupings. I click on it twice, so it goes down, creates our columns, and then I click on sheet. This is going to populate here very quickly, as you can see, and it's going to give you, based on the zip codes you selected or within this district, you can see the different ethnic coding. So within, let's say, zip code, we'll take one that's more populated, 19301. You have 3,800 individuals who are European or white, 135 Hispanics, let's see, 60 African Americans, 390 East and South Asians, 158 other, and 589 unknown, for a total of 5,186 individuals, constituents within that zip code. This was all done in a matter of seconds to give you a crosstab and an ability to look at a breakdown that would take hours to do if you were going to do it manually or by hand within the tool. You can then also download the data, and it will save as a spreadsheet, and you can then work with the data within Excel or any kind of other Google Sheets or any other spreadsheet-based platform you might be using. And that's using the Sheets tool. Some of the other features that we have within the platform, I'm going to click Reset again, and I'm going to reselect our district. Again, if this is your district or any district is yours, you don't have to do this every time. But since we're working with CD6, I'm going to be consistent. We also have the ability to match data back into the tool. Now, there's two quick ways to do this. One is using the private data tool at the bottom here. And if you click on the plus sign, this allows you to upload data if you have an L2 ID, so an LAL voter ID, and then any other fields with it. So let's say you did a survey, or you have a list of L2 IDs from a teletown hall event with where you had responses or response data to it. You could actually load those data back into the tool, again, as long as you have a header of LAL voter ID and then a list of those IDs next to it. So it's actually a really quick and easy way to load data back into the tool. The other thing you can do is if you have a name and address or an address-only file, you go up to this magic wand in the upper right-hand corner, and you can match name and address or address only. So you have the ability to load that in here. So let's take name and address, click on it, and you can see you simply have to change the headers, and you have to include first name, last name, and state. So let's say Paul Westcott, PA, and then you have address line and city, or a birth date in this format. Either one, and the matching process can begin. Once the match is done, you come back down here, go to private data to make it available inside the tool, use previously matched file because you just matched it on name and address, and you can select the actual file you loaded. You can create a branch label, an email, and value threshold. This is basically if you have, let's say, 25 responses, you can have up to 100 responses within here. If it exceeds 100, it'll basically say we're not going to show more than 100 of these responses. So you can set that, click proceed, and it will appear as a private branch and make it selectable just like any other data in the tool. You can't load new data back into the tool, but you can load, meaning you can't load new names, but you can load additional fields that you are collecting back into the tool and use those for your selections. You also have the management tool in the upper right-hand corner. So if you click on manage, you can see here are all the users that we have that are in part of this application. If you are in an office, you simply click on invite, put the email of the individual, set role as read-only, which doesn't allow for downloading. Analyst does, so we'll say read-only. And then we'll click on applications, and in this case, we just want to do Pennsylvania. Click. Normally, there won't be doubles of these kinds of things. This is just in the demo account, but you click here, OK, and then send invitation. And that person will receive an email, and they go through the steps of being added here. The other thing that you can do is you can remove people by simply deleting them here. You can change their role from analyst to manager to, you can't change that. Yeah, analyst to manager to read-only. And then applications, this allows you to set which apps they actually have access to. Most cases, it's going to be a single one anyway, so it'll just be the state in which you're working. And then resources shows you the number of universes, shapes, exports, and reports that you have. And if, say, somebody created a universe that you now want to review, or you want somebody on the team to review, you can simply click here. And let's say I have it employee 2, but we want to send it to employee 1. So what I'll do is I'll take this specific universe and send it to employee 1, click OK. It's now going to do it. It'll then refresh my application here. Close this little tab here. It'll refresh my application. That universe will no longer be in my account, but it will have been transferred to that other account. And that's how you can work with the management tool. One last thing before we wrap up here, I will show you the About button. If you click on this, you can see this is when we last updated the voter file, the underlying data, the last telephone and change of address update as well. And then you can see it looks like January 1st, we had some updates in terms of the miscellaneous data. This is going to be very similar across the country unless we have we've done some specific updates to city council districts or other things like that. You can see all of the changes we've made, specifically here in the Pennsylvania app, but you can see this anywhere across the country.